On average, people who menstruate will have 450 periods over their lifetimes. They will use 11,000 single-use pads and tampons. Considering that I didn't actually menstruate for half of my menstruating lifetime, I would still be contributing to 225 menstrual cycles and 5,500 throwaway period products. The environmental impact of this is shocking, so I thought it was time to talk about it. Also, be sure to watch till the end because I've got some very exciting giveaway news. Let's start by looking at tampons. Many are flushed down the toilets, end up in sewage systems, and clearly they shouldn't be there. If you use tampons, dispose of them properly, in a bin. However, even when disposed of properly, the outlook is still quite gloomy. They might go to landfill because they capture human waste, so they can't be recycled, and just sort of stick around there for a very, very long time. Organic cotton tampons unfortunately aren't that much better, due to the extensive amount of time that they take to actually degrade. If we turn our attention to pads, the outlook is still pretty gloomy. Up to 90% of the material makeup of pads is plastic and just not recyclable. In fact, the impact of pads is worse than just your standard plastic bags, and it is estimated that by 2050, there will be more plastics in the ocean than there are fish. Both tampons and pads are made up of a combination of plastics, a kind of wood pulp, bleach, and many other chemicals, which are not only pretty bad for the environment, I also wouldn't trust those materials anywhere near my sensitive areas. Anyway, we know the environmental impact of plastic, but cotton's not a sweetheart either. Cotton is branded the dirtiest crop in the world, and it requires 25% of the world's insecticides and 10% of the world's pesticides. So basically, tampons and pads, they negatively impact the environment, waterways, wildlife, and farmers. So what can we do about it? Well, there's quite a few options out there. Hear me out. The first option is period underwear. This is an easy swap if you're used to wearing pads because they're not that much different, really, except much better for you and the environment. They only require a wash after you wear them, naturally, as you would with any other underwear, and then they can be reused, so they don't need to be binned. Much less waste. They have an extensive lifespan, and unlike regular pads and tampons, they're free of synthetic materials. This is better for the environment, but also much less likely to cause irritation. Generally, period pads are made up of 3 layers. One is absorbent, so the blood doesn't just stay around. One is waterproof, and then there tends to be a bit of an extra comfort layer, making it practical and comfortable. And considering the many styles available out there, it can be pretty fashionable as well. Anyway, if you have a light period, I think this therefore makes them quite a good primary period product. However, I do think if you have a very heavy period, there can still be leaks. It is still possible to have little accidents. But that doesn't mean you can't use them as a secondary backup to, for example, a menstrual cup. Menstrual cups are made of reusable plastic and can last for 4 years. Potentially longer. Some have suggested maybe 10 years. Much better, at least, than a single-use product. Anyway, if it does last 10 years, it can hold up to 120 periods. Think about that, because that is absolutely mad. If we do the math, that is the equivalent of, say, 3,000 sanitary products, and the environmental impact of about 12,000 plastic bags. And that's not even taking into consideration periods that are more than average, or what might one consider heavy bleeding. Basically, it's just a whole lot of waste, which can be prevented by a simple tiny little thing like this. Rather than being thrown out, you can just rinse them between uses. You can use soap as well, and between periods it's important to really clean it out thoroughly. So either boil it according to the instructions that you will get with the cup, or what I do is put it in a glass of water with a Colgate dental tablet, which I have left over from when I had my retainers, and not even any discoloration, and I've used this thing for over 2 years. So if you care for it properly, it can stay clean, it's a really good alternative, and it can last a very long time. Also, they're not as messy as some other products, and I think they're great for travel because you can keep them up there for several hours depending on how heavy your period is. When I travel, I definitely make sure to take my cup every time. In addition, what is sort of less known is that they promote better vaginal health with the lowest chance of any period products to cause infections, itching, or any other discomfort. Unlike tampons, they also don't cause any dryness, and they do not mess with your natural fluids. Because they do not collect the blood externally, as pads would, for example, and as period underwear would, I think it's a nice way to ignore that I'm actually on my period sometimes. Basically, because my periods are quite heavy, sometimes I have a few leaks. Also, so far I've tended to put it up the standard way, like this, and it's much more difficult to create a vacuum. Recently, I learned a very useful tip, which is to turn it inside out. Once it's inside out, it's much better able to create a vacuum, and I haven't actually had a single leak this way. Even when I went on a full day hike a few days ago, and when I slept a full 10 hours on the worst night of my period, I was clean, and I used this cup with the period underwear as my backup. Anyway, you might be wondering how on earth to get this weird thing up there. It's quite easy. There's several folds you can try, and for the longest time I just used this one right here. It did require some practice. Now, however, I found a fold that is easier to put in and also easier to then open up after it's in. Rather than fold it like that, I push in that side over there to create this beautiful shape. Then it can go up, and then inside it can open up and collect the blood. Anyway, if you're just starting out, it is a bit of a challenge. It can be a bit messy, but yeah, it just takes a bit of practice. Initially, I did find it useful to have it the proper way around because it has that little tip at the end that you can more easily pull out. But if you go to the toilet or squat and sort of push like you're giving birth or having a poo, it'll be fine to get out, even if initially it takes like half an hour and you freak out a few times as you do so. Stick with it because I promise you it is worth it. Anyway, the bottom of this cup can be a bit irritating or feel a bit awkward to some people, so feel free to cut it off or part of it off so that it's not just sticking out. That's definitely what I did, and it's much more comfortable now. Anyway, I've talked excessively about this one because it probably requires most practice, but yeah, this is the thing that I always have with me, as well as some period pants, just as a backup, as I said. But now that I've discovered the inside out trick, I don't necessarily need it as much, just on my lighter days. These period pants are absolutely amazing, but they're not the only thing. In addition to period pants, there's also reusable pads, such as these. I recently tried them for the very first time, and I found that they definitely collect the blood well, make sure you don't leak, and it basically works like a pad, but it really gathers the blood and can then be washed and reused. Personally, I do not like these fluffy ones as much, even though they are adorable, but just because it's a little bit warm and it just feels a bit odd to have this warm cloth down there. Also with these, as with regular pads, like, you obviously clip them over there, and these bits are still a bit movable. It's not as nice when they give you a wedgie, but again, not much different from regular pads, but better for the environment. So definitely my favorites are the cup and the period underwear. Anyway, I have used all of these different methods, and you might be wondering what my experience with each of them were. Well, tampons I used once. I didn't like them. I didn't like the thought of what I was doing to the environment. It just felt wrong, and it stayed with that one time. Regular pads I found quite itchy, not very comfortable, they grossed me out, so yeah, that too. It's not very highly rated in my mind. Next, the period underwear. I think they're amazing. If you're just spotting a little bit, have a bit of discharge, or either at the end of your period when it's not that heavy, you might be able to use it alone. Or as I do, as a backup to the menstrual cup. Personally, I use this moon cup, but I also have 2 period underwear from Dear Kate, which I really like, and then reusable pads and period underwear from Cheeky Wipes. My favourite items are definitely this moon cup, which is a lifesaver, followed by the Cheeky Wipes period underwear. I personally like them a little bit more than the Dear Kate period underwear just because they don't just absorb the blood, they also have a really good protective layer in the middle, whereas the Dear Kate ones, if you're really bleeding a lot, it does eventually sort of come through the other side, which is not necessarily what you want. However, their products are still really, really nice, and they have a variety of different kinds of underwear. They also have yoga pants and other things like that, so that's quite exciting too. I've partnered with Cheeky Wipes, who have sent me all of these amazing products, except the cup, which is a moon cup if you're interested. They have told me that I can give away 1 reusable period protection starter kit, KISS, to a lucky winner, and then 3 more period underwear as well, to lucky follow-up winners. If you want a chance to win, be sure to check out the full requirements and what you have to do below, and let me know if you use any of these products, if you have any fun tips, if you have any fun facts, anything like that. It's one of those things I'm quite passionate about in my waste reducing efforts. So yeah, definitely interact with me below. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned some new things. Anyway, take very good care and see you all shortly. Bye!